Shalom, shalom, family. I know it's been a while since I've been on here, but for good reasons too, right? Lord has been blessing all of us with more understanding and things like that. And just in time, because this is the last night of the Feast of Dedication, so we wanted to go out with a bang and really break this thing down for those who don't understand. So, if you understand the Gentile nations, right? We have 4 Gentile nations. We have Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. The problem is that Greece is not talked about enough. And if y'all don't notice that the history of the Greek Empire is not in the 66 books, right? You just have the prophecies. But we are going to prove that the prophecies, not only the prophecies in the 66 books, but we're going to use the book of Maccabees today to show that that is a legit history, right? Even though it's in the Apocrypha. I know a lot of people got an issue with the Apocrypha. But regardless, if the information is sound, brothers and sisters, then it's sound, right? And so we're not going to waste no time. We're going to get right into this lesson, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what Hellenization is, right? What Hellenization is. And specifically, Hellenization is pretty much the spreading of the Greek culture, right? We are living in a Hellenized society, right? If you don't know that. Even though we live in the United States, the Greek culture has transcended from Greece to Rome to Britain, all the way over to the United States, right? And so this is what we're going to take care of today. We're going to break this whole thing down. And what we want to do is we want to give appreciation for what these brothers have done, right? They literally went in there when the Greeks were polluting the temple, polluting the sanctuary. They went in there, they went to war with the Greeks, and they got it back. Yes, sir. And that is what we want to point out, brothers and sisters, right? So what we're gonna do. Oh, and by the way, I am Cassius Israel. I'm from the Walls of Jericho, Biblical and Historical Studies. This is my brother Isaac. He's also from the Walls of Jericho, Biblical and Historical Studies. He will be my reader for today. And we are going to break this down. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the definition of Hellenization, right? The definition of Hellenization. Go ahead, bro.
Hellenization was the spread of Greek culture and the assimilation into the Greek culture of non-Greek peoples.
Right, so the assimilation of Greek culture to non-Greek people. But remember, brothers and sisters, Greek culture has transcended, once again, to Rome. It even got into the Sunday Christian doctrine and onto Britain, to the United States, right? All the way down to where we are. Keep going.
It was a notable trait of ancient Greek civilization, an approach to other cultures that was not merely invasive or dominant, but transformative.
Keep going.
This set an example later followed by the Roman Empire, Christianity, and the British Empire, essentially establishing a framework within which much of Western history can be discussed.
Right, so Western history overall, brothers and sisters, has been influenced by Hellenization, right? And that's what we want to point out. We're going to give an example and show an example of this as well, right? Keep going.
The products of culture spread by Hellenization included the Greek language and writing system, its myths and religion, and its technology are not mere ideas, but practical, exploitable benefits.
Right, so you got the language and writing system. That's the one thing we want to focus on right now, because that's the example that we're going to give. But it also said it's technology and art, not mere ideas, but practical and exploitative benefits, right? So that is from Ancient World History, Hellenization, earlyworldhistory.blogspot.com. That is the source. Once again, that is Ancient World History, Hellenization, earlyworldhistory.blogspot.com, right? And so let us get into an example of seeing this thing transcend to the other nations, right? Let us now read the next one, bro. Go ahead.
How was ancient Greek impacted the modern English language?
Right, so we speak English. So we're going to see how, like I said, we're going to see how influential the Greek culture was, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Culture Trip spoke with Brian Joseph, vice president of the Linguistic Society of America, to find out the inevitable influence of ancient Greek on the English language. The fact that ancient Greek has had such an impact on English is fascinating, as there was never a direct relationship between the two places.
Now, point that out. There was never a direct relationship between the two places, right? But it still influenced this language, brothers and sisters. So we got to look at that, right? Keep going.
And yet the impact of ancient Greek was, as Brian Joseph explains, always likely to be seen in modern English. The influence of ancient Greek on English was inevitable once a particular value was placed on things Greek. Greek wisdom, Greek literary production by the Western intelligentsia in the Middle Ages.
Right. So its bottom line, it influenced what we have today, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Such cultural influence will prove to have a lasting impact not only on the English language, but also on English architecture, education, philosophy, law, and literature. The impact of the language was mainly felt because of the value ascribed to Greek culture more widely. As Brian elaborates, if, say, Arabic or Chinese wisdom and literature had been valued in that period, it wasn't, but it had been, speaking hypothetically. There probably would not have been the huge influx of Greek words into English.
Right, so inevitably it still transcended down to this time, brothers and sisters, right? Inevitably. It wasn't even directly supposed to be a part of it, but it still got through. That's how much of an impact that Greece has had on this world, brothers and sisters, right? And who brought this upon this world, right? Alexander the Great. That's what we're going to start off with. Alexander the Great. He's the one that really brought the Hellenization to the world, right? And so what we're going to do now is that we're going to prove not only is the Maccabees books legit, brothers and sisters, but it's actually prophesied in the Bible. In the 66 books, it's prophesied. People do not understand duality when it comes to prophecy, right? There are things that have happened before, and then there's things that's going to happen again. And we got to understand that, right? This thing said it was going to come all the way down until the end. But we can't skip over Greece. As much as you may want to or think it's irrelevant, you cannot skip over Greece. I use an analogy with people. It's like, say, for instance, you're giving somebody a test, right? You got 4 questions on the test, but you get 3 right, but you expect to get 100% on the test. That doesn't add up. You need to have 4 right to get 100%. So how are we going to deal with Babylon, Medo-Persia, Rome, and then skip Greece? We're not going to skip Greece today, right? All right, so now let's get into Daniel, the 11th chapter now. Right, we're going to break this down bit by bit. Bit by bit. Daniel, the 11th chapter. Daniel, the 11th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 1. Daniel, the 11th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 1. Daniel 11 and verse 1. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
Also, I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him.
Right, so now people get this person mixed up. This is Darius the Mede, the one that took over the kingdom after Belteshazzar, right? When God told Belteshazzar, he was going to die, Darius the Mede inherited the Babylonian kingdom, right? So this is before Cyrus. Before Cyrus. So we want to see that this is actually a prophecy that's being spoken about. Keep going.
And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia.
Right. You know what's crazy, brothers and sisters? If you ever seen the movie 300, right? Verse 2 just explained 300. Verse 2 literally just explained 300, right? So these 3 kings of Persia is Cyrus, Cambyses, and Darius, the Persian, right? You want to get Darius the Mede mixed up with Darius the Persian. Cyrus, Cambyses, and Darius the Persian, right? And then this fourth one that's going to be richer than they all, and by his strength through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. This is Xerxes. Xerxes, brothers and sisters, right? But we're not dealing with Persia today. We're going to deal with Greece. So let's keep going. Go ahead.
And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will.
Right. So this is Alexander the Great, brothers and sisters, right? Going into the Greek Empire. The first one to reign and bring Greek together as a empire, right? Keep going.
And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those.
So it says the four winds of heaven, talking about his four generals, brothers and sisters. This is Ptolemy, Lysimachus, or some people think it's Antigonus, but it could be either one, right? But there's four of them. But we're really gonna go with Antigonus, since he actually had more impact on the Greek Empire than Lysimachus did. Then you had Cassandra and then Seleucus, right? But the two we're going to focus on that really had power in the Greek Empire, brothers and sisters, is the Seleucids and the Ptolemies, right? Which is going to be the king of the north, which is the Seleucids, and the king of the south, which is the Ptolemy. So reason why they're the king of the north and they're the king of the south is because the king of the north ruled everything north of Israel. The king of the south ruled everything south of Israel. It's just as simple as that, right? Keep going.
And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand nor his arm. But she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times.
Keep going.
But out of the branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail. And shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver and gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom, and shall return into his own land.
Right, so we're going to read that so y'all know what we're dealing with, right? So now we're going to go back and break this down bit by bit, brothers and sisters, right? Bit by bit. So we're going to start with verse 5, right? So remember, once again, the king of the south is the Ptolemies. The king of the north is the Seleucids, right? Or Seleucids. So whenever you're ready, bro, go ahead where it says B.
The kings of the north and the kings of the south. The strength of the king of the south.
Right, so this is explaining verse 5. We're at verse 5 right now, right? Keep going.
Also the king of the south shall become strong, as well as one of his princes. He shall gain power over him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And the king of the south shall become strong. One of the four inheritors of the empire of the mighty king will become stronger and greater than the others.
Keep going.
He shall gain power over him and have dominion. This was fulfilled in Ptolemy the first of Egypt.
So this was fulfilled with Ptolemy the first of Egypt, right? Keep going.
Who exerted his control over the Holy Land. Soon after the division of Alexander's empire, the Ptolemies dominated this region.
Right, so this is the king of the south, right? They dominated everything that was south of Israel, right? Keep going.
Ptolemy, I had a prince named Seleucus, who rose to power and took dominion over the region of Syria.
Right, so verse 5, it says, and the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes. The princes was Seleucus. What is that? Seleucus the second, I believe. Seleucus the second. Right, keep going.
He became more powerful than his former Egyptian ruler. The Seleucids are identified with the kings of the north, and the Ptolemies were the kings of the south.
Right, keep going.
The dynasties of the Seleucids and the Ptolemies fought for some 300 years, 130 years.
So that's about how long that they fought against each other. 130 years, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
The stronger of the two always held dominion over the Holy Land.
Right. So now we're going to deal with verse 6, right? Verse 6 Go ahead.
A marriage between the families of the kings of the north and the kings of the south.
Remember, it said, verse 6 says, and it shall come to, and in the end of years they shall join themselves together, talking about the king of the north and the king of the south. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north and make an agreement. This is a marriage agreement, a marriage covenant, right? Keep going.
And at the end of some years they shall join forces. For the daughter of the king of the south shall go to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of her authority. And neither he nor his authority shall stand. But she shall be given up with those who brought her, and with him who begot her, and with him who strengthened her in those times.
All right, keep going.
They shall join forces.
So they shall join forces. Listen to this in detail, brothers and sisters, so you can see what's going on here, right? Keep going.
Joined by a marriage.
So they were joined by a marriage. That is what the agreement was. Keep going.
The kings of the north and the south will be allies for a while, but the arrangement will not last.
Right, keep going.
The daughter of the king of the south shall go to the king of the north to make an agreement. This was fulfilled in the marriage between Antiochus II of the Seleucids and Bernice, daughter of Ptolemy II.
So Bernice made a marriage agreement with Antiochus II, which is the king of the north, brothers and sisters. That is the agreement that is being made here, right? Keep going.
There was peace for a time because of this marriage, but it was upset when Ptolemy II died.
All right, keep going.
Shall not retain the power of her authority. Once Ptolemy II died, Antiochus II put away Bernice and took back his former wife, Laodice.
Laodice, right? So it says now she shall not retain the power of her authority, right? Because once Ptolemy II died, Antiochus put away Bernice and took back his former wife, Laodice, right? Keep going.
Neither he nor his authority shall stand.
See, neither he nor his authority shall stand. So once again, we're breaking this down bit by bit, brothers and sisters, right? What does this mean? Keep going.
Laodice didn't trust her husband, Antiochus II, so she had him poisoned.
Right? So that's why you see it saying, let's see where we at. Sorry, bear with me. All right, and in the end of years, they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement, but she shall not retain the power of arms, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but he shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times. So they all, that meaning they all died, brothers and sisters, right? They all died. Bernice was given up. Laodice, she stepped in. She poisoned her husband because she didn't trust him, right? So that's why they all died. But we're going to see what happens to Bernice as well. Keep going. Verse 7. No, we're right. Verse 7.
Okay, guys.
Oh, that's right. Next page. All right, keep going.
She shall be given up with those who brought her.
So she shall be given up with those who brought her, right? Let's see what this means. Go ahead.
After the murder of Antiochus II, Laodice had Bernice, her infant son, and her attendants killed.
Now, Bernice now is killed, right? So she shall not, once again, she shall not retain the power of the arm. Why? Because she was killed, Ptolemy II died, and Antiochus got killed by Laodice deceit, right? So she killed Antiochus II and Bernice. That is what happened, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
After this reign of terror, Laodice set her son, Seleucus II, on the throne of the Syrian dominion.
All right, so now we're going to deal with verse 7 and 9, right? Keep going.
From the south, an army defeats the kingdom of the north.
All right, keep going.
But from a branch of her roots, one shall arise in his place. Who shall come with an army, enter the fortress of the king of the north, and deal with them and prevail. And he shall also carry their gods captive to Egypt, with their princes and their precious articles of silver and gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north. Also the king of the north shall come to the kingdom of the king of the south, but shall return to his own land.
So we're going to see who this is, right? Keep going.
Who shall come with an army? The angel told Daniel that a branch of her roots will come from the south and prevail over the kings of the north.
Keep going.
Deal with them and prevail. This was fulfilled in the person of Ptolemy III, who was the brother of Bernice, the branch of her roots.
So the branch of Bernice's roots, brothers and sisters, was Ptolemy III, right? Keep going.
Avenging the murder of his sister, Ptolemy III invaded Syria and humbled Seleucus II. He shall continue more years than the king of the north.
So he shall continue more years, meaning how long he lived past the king of the north, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
Ptolemy III lived 4 years past Seleucus II.
So these prophecies are being fulfilled. Remember, he called this in the first year of Darius the Mede, right before Cyrus. Cyrus didn't come into the game until like 539, brothers and sisters. That means everything that was spoken was after this, after Daniel spoke this prophecy, or the angel told Daniel about this prophecy, brothers and sisters. So this is indeed a prophecy, but we got to see what it's actually talking about, right? And once again, it's not just talking about the abomination of desolation that's going to be ahead of us, but it was talking about the Greek Empire as well, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going. All right, so where are we at?
6.
All right, so now we're going to skip down to verse 13. Go back to the Bible.
Gotcha.
Verse 13. We're going to skip down to verse 13. So we see what's going on here, brothers and sisters, from 1 through 9. We just explained what 1 through 9 was. Now we're going to skip down to verse 13, and you can go ahead, my brother.
For the king of the north shall return and set forth a multitude greater than the former. And shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and with much riches. And in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. So the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand.
Verse 16.
But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed.
All right, so we're going to go back to the breakdown, brothers and sisters, right? So we're going from verse 13 to verse 16. Verse 13 to verse 16. Go ahead, my brother.
The king of the north is occupation of the glorious land. For the king of the north will return and muster a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come at the end of some years with a great army and much equipment. Now in those times many shall rise up against the king of the south also. Violent men of your people shall exalt themselves in the fulfillment of the vision, but they shall fall. So the king of the north shall come and build a siege mound and take a fortified city, and the forces of the south shall not withstand him. Even his choice troops shall have no strength to resist. But he who comes against him shall do according to his own will, and no one shall stand against him. He shall stand in the glorious land with the destruction in his power. All
right, so what does all of this mean, right? Keep going, my brother.
The king of the north shall certainly come at the end of some years with a great army. The angel told Daniel that the northern dynasty would answer back and defeat the king of the south in an extended siege. This victory would give the king of the north dominion over the glorious land.
Right, so keep going.
The land of ornaments, that is Judea, which lying betwixt these two potent princes was perpetually afflicted, as corn is ground asunder, lying betwixt two heavy milestones.
Keep going.
No one shall stand against him. This was fulfilled when Antiochus III invaded Egypt again.
Right, so Antiochus III or Antiochus the Great. Now this is the son, this is the father of Antiochus Epiphanes, the one that's going to force the Hellenistic world onto the people, right? So when Alexander the Great came in, brothers and sisters, he didn't force nothing on nobody. He let everybody pretty much loved him. Egypt loved him because he was saving them for the Persians who they hated, right? So he didn't force anything upon the people. However, when Antiochus, as we're going to show, when Antiochus IV or Epiphanes comes along, he forces the Hellenistic world on the people. It's either get down or lay down, right? Pretty much get down or lay down. If you don't give up your laws, your customs, your gods, or whatever the case may be, we are going to get put to death if you don't come up under the Greek culture, right? Keep going.
Gaining final control over the armies of Ptolemy V and over the Holy Land.
Right, so that's what's going on right now, right? Keep going.
Many shall rise up against the king of the south. Jews living in the Holy Land help Antiochus III defeat the king of the south.
So the Jews in the Holy Land, because they, for some strange reason, they got a love for Antiochus the Great, brothers and sisters, right? So they end up helping him take down Ptolemy V at that time, right? Keep going.
This was because the Jewish people resented the rule of the Egyptian Ptolemies. Violent men of your people shall exalt themselves in fulfillment of the vision.
And they also did it because they resented the rule of the Egyptian Ptolemies, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
He who comes against him shall do according to his own will. With destruction and his power, the Jewish people of the glorious land initially welcomed Antiochus III as a liberator from Egyptian rule.
Right, so they welcomed Antiochus III as the liberator of Egyptian rule. So that is the main reason why they loved him. But the reason why I said is that he's not really a liberator, right? This was all an illusion to these people, and it made them go into more of the paganism and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Their decision to support Antiochus III proved unwise when he turned destruction upon the glorious land and his people.
As I said, it was an illusion, right? Because he ended up turning against the people that was supposed. He ended up turning against the people that relied on him to save them, brothers and sisters. That's another thing. We can only rely on God to save us, brothers and sisters. Not these heathen kings and nations. Heck, we couldn't even rely on our own kings to save us, brothers and sisters. Except the King of Kings, which is Jesus, right? Keep going.
The king of the south will give his daughter to the king of the north.
Right, so the king of the south will give his daughter to the king of the north. Did y'all know that Cleopatra was prophesied in the Bible? Let's see this breakdown. Keep going.
He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do. And he shall give him the daughter of women to destroy it, but she shall not stand with him or be for him. He shall also set his face.
So we're going to break, once again, this is bit by bit, brothers and sisters. So he shall also set his face. What does this mean? Go ahead.
The king of the north who ruled over the Holy Land will also attempt to dominate and destroy the king of the south. He will make one attempt by giving the king of the south the daughter of women to destroy. But this plot would not succeed.
Right, so this was Antiochus giving Antiochus III giving Ptolemy V Cleopatra, thinking that he was going to be able to dominate and rule over Egypt through his daughter. But his daughter seen how the Romans was coming to take over, and then she ended up using her political influence to side with Rome. So she ended up not doing what her father intended for her to do, right? Keep going.
She should not stand with him. This was fulfilled when Antiochus III gave his daughter Cleopatra to Ptolemy V of Egypt. He did this hoping to gain permanent influence and eventually control in Egypt.
So that was his mission, but it didn't happen. It failed, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
To the great disappointment of Antiochus III, the plan did not succeed because Cleopatra wasn't faithful to her Egyptian husband at all.
And she wasn't faithful to Ptolemy V. She was out here doing her own thing, right? Wanting to have her own influence. She had her own agenda, brothers and sisters, basically, right? Keep going.
This was not the most famous Cleopatra from ancient history.
Right, this is Cleopatra the First. This was not the most famous one, brothers and sisters, but she's the start of it, right? But see, we got Cleopatra. You see how deep this stuff is in the Bible? You got Cleopatra being prophesied by the angel of God that's going to come upon. Like, this stuff trips me out every time I read it, right? Keep going.
The more famous Egyptian woman lived some 100 years after the time of Cleopatra.
All right, so now we're going to read, let's go back to the Bible, and we're going to read verse 18 and verse 19. Verse 18 and verse 19, go ahead.
After this shall he turn his face into the isles and shall take many. But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found.
Right, so let's go see what this means, brothers and sisters. Once again, we are doing 18 and 19 now. Go ahead, my brother.
The king of the north is stopped and stumbles. After this, he shall turn his face to the coastlands and shall take many. But a ruler shall bring the reproach against them to an end. And with the reproach removed, he shall turn back on him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fortress of his own land. But he shall stumble and fall and not be found.
All right, keep going.
He shall turn back on him.
So he shall turn back on him. Let's see what this means. Go ahead.
After the disappointing effort through the daughter of Cleopatra, the king of the north returned his efforts toward the coastlands until he was stopped by one formerly under reproach, until he shall stumble and fall and not be found.
Go ahead.
And he shall stumble and fall. This was fulfilled when Antiochus III turned his attention toward the areas of Asia Minor and Greece. He was helped by Hannibal, the famous general from Carthage.
He was helped by Hannibal, the famous general of Carthage. So this was fulfilled when Antiochus III turned his attention towards the area of Asia Minor and Greece. Go ahead, my brother.
But a Roman general, Lucius Cornelius Scipio, defeated Antiochus in Greece. Antiochus planned to humiliate Greece, but was humiliated instead. He returned to his former regions, having lost all that he gained, and died shortly after.
Keep going.
After this defeat, Antiochus III had an inglorious end. Needing money badly for his treasury, he resorted to pillaging a Babylonian temple and was killed by enraged local citizens.
All right, so let's keep going. So we're seeing this breakdown, brothers and sisters, thorough breakdown, and we are still dealing with the Greeks. We have not moved on from the Greeks. So I challenge anybody. Once again, I'm saying it's a duality in here. So I'm not taking away the fact that we got to deal with the abomination of desolation that is still prophesied in Daniel 11 in the future. But who can say that this is not talking about the Greeks? And when we finally get down to it, who can say that this is not talking about the Maccabean revolt? Right? In the Bible, in the 66, right? Let's keep going, my brother. Matter of fact, where we at? My bad.
We are right here going into... Hold on.
No, we started.
All right, up top. Right.
All right, so let's read verse 20 real quick in the Bible. Verse 20. Go ahead.
Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. But within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle.
Right, so then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. Let's go see who this is, right? Now we on 9.
The brief reign of the succeeding king of the north. There shall arise in the place one who imposes taxes on the glorious kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, but not in anger or in battle.
Keep going.
There shall arise in his place.
There shall arise in his place. Keep going.
After the inglorious end of the king of the north, his successor will raise taxes and meet a soon end. One who imposes taxes.
So let's see who this is. Keep going.
This was fulfilled in the brief reign of Seleucus III, the eldest son of Antiochus III. He sought to tax his dominion, including the glorious kingdom, the Holy Land, to increase revenue.
So this was fulfilled by Seleucus the third, brothers and sisters, who was the eldest son of Antiochus III. And it says he sought to tax his dominion, including the glorious kingdom, the Holy Land, to increase revenues. Right? Keep going.
His plan to pillage the Jerusalem temple was set aside when his ambassador had an angelic vision of warning.
So what's crazy is Seleucus III was trying to do the same thing that eventually Antiochus IV, his brother, is going to do. But let's see what happens to Seleucus. Keep going.
Within a few days, he shall be destroyed.
So within a few days, talking about Seleucus III, he shall be destroyed. Let's see what happened to him. Go ahead.
Seleucus III was assassinated probably by his brother Antiochus IV.
So it's been suspicions he got assassinated, period. That's how he got destroyed, right? But it was a rumor out that it was his brother Antiochus IV that assassinated him, right? So now, let's go back to the Bible. Let's read verse 21 now. Verse 21, and go ahead.
And in his estate shall stand up a vile person to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flattery.
So this is talking about Antiochus IV, brothers and sisters, or Antiochus Epiphanes, who they called the madman, who Israel called the madman that came along, right? So let's see what he ends up doing. Let's keep going. See.
The vile person comes to power.
No, see. Recent.
Antiochus IV, known as Antiochus Epiphanes, a vile person.
Or a madman, right? Keep going.
The vile person comes to power. And in his place shall arise a vile person to whom they will not give the honor of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably and seize the kingdom by intrigue.
Right.
In his place shall arise a vile person. The angel told Daniel that after the brief reign of the former king of the north, the next king will be a vile person. He will not be recognized as royalty, but shall take power by intrigue. In his place, this was fulfilled in the successor of Seleucus III, named Antiochus IV. He did not come to the throne legitimately because it was strongly suspected that he murdered his older brother.
So that is solely why in his estate shall stand a vile person to whom they shall not give honor of the kingdom, because they thought that he killed Seleucus III, so they didn't, his brother, so they wasn't trying to give him the honor of the kingdom, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
The previous king, the other potential heir, the son of Seleucus III, was imprisoned in Rome.
Right, so you already know, I can already suspect that Antiochus IV did this because he was a vile person and he wanted to rule over these kingdoms, brothers and sisters. As we're going to see, he was the one that was trying to rule over both realms, the king of the be the king of the north and the south. He wanted to be king on both realms, right? Keep going.
He shall come in peaceably. Apart from the murder of his older brother, Antiochus IV didn't use terror to gain power. He used flattery, smooth promises, and intrigue.
Right, he was spitting game. That's what he was doing. That's how he got into power, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
He flattered Eumenes, king of Pergamos, and Attalus, his brother, and got their assistance. He flattered the Romans and sent ambassadors to the court their favor and paid them the arrears of the tribute. He flattered the Syrians and gained their concurrence.
Right, so he flattered all these people. You see, he flattered the Romans at first. But what we're going to see is that the Romans end up coming against him because he wanted to take over Egypt. And then they ended up having a league with the king of the south. So they told him to stand down. Otherwise, he was going to proclaim war on them. Right? Keep going.
Antiochus IV took the title Epiphanes, meaning illustrious.
Illustrious, right? The Epiphanes meant illustrious, but we're going to see what other people, and specifically Israel, called him. Keep going.
Others derisively called him Epimanes, meaning madman.
Right, so some called him Epiphanes, which means illustrious, but some called him Epimanes, means madman, brothers and sisters, right? This was Antiochus IV. Now, we're going to read, now we're going to deal with verse 22 through 27. Whenever you get there, my brother, go ahead and read.
And with the arms of a flood shall they be overthrown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with the small people.
So we're still talking about Antiochus IV, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
And he shall enter peaceably even unto the fattest places of the province. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches. Yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time.
So it says, notice it says that he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. Because nobody forced Hellenism on anybody, brothers and sisters. Anybody that wanted to be under the Hellenistic culture, they did it by choice. But when it came to Antiochus, the madman, he made them do it. Yo, either do this or die. That's how it was with Antiochus, as we're going to see. Keep going. Verse 25.
And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to the battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him.
Keep going.
Yea, they that feed on the portion of his meat shall destroy him. His army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed.
All right, so now let's go see what this means, brothers and sisters. So where we at? We right here.
20, yeah, at the bottom.
All right, go ahead.
The vile person fails to conquer the king of the south.
All right.
With the force of a flood, they shall be swept away from before him and be broken. And also the prince of the covenant. And after the league is made with him, he shall act deceitfully, for he shall come up and become strong with a small number of people. He shall enter peaceably, even into the richest places of the province. He shall do what his fathers have not done, nor his forefathers. He shall disperse among them the plunder, spoil, and riches, and he shall devise his plans against the strongholds, but only for a time. He shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army, and the king of the south shall be stirred up to the battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall devise plans against him. Yes, those who eat of the portion of his delicacies shall destroy him. His army shall be swept away, and many shall fall down slain. But these kings' hearts shall be bent on evil, and they shall speak lies at the same table. But it shall not prosper, for the end will still be at the appointed time.
Notice it says, yes, those who eat of the portion of his delicacies shall destroy him. Now, if you look in the future, brothers and sisters, when you go to Revelations, is that the 10 horns is going to come against the whore, and they ate from her delicacies, but then ended up coming to destroy her. It's the same thing going on, brothers and sisters, right? Duality, right? What's going to happen? What happened before is going to essentially happen again, right? Let's keep going.
He shall act deceitfully. The angel told Daniel that the new king of the north, the vile person of Daniel 11 and 21, would attempt a deceitful covenant with the king of the south. This would fail, and there would be a great battle that would not change the balance of power.
Keep going.
He shall stir up his power.
So he shall stir up his power. Let's see what this means. Go ahead.
This was fulfilled when Antiochus Epiphanes carried on the feud between the dynasties, but pretended friendship and alliance to catch them off guard.
Right, so he shall come in deceitfully and come in with flatteries, right? So he's going to make these phony friendships with these kings, brothers and sisters, just to get them off of guard. That's what he was doing, right? Keep going.
Despite massive efforts and epic battles, Antiochus Epiphanes did not stand. His army was swept away.
Right, so he was only going to do this, remember, for a time, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
The defeat of Antiochus Epiphanes and his second campaign against Egypt was important because Egypt beat Antiochus with the help of Rome.
So he was going down there. Once again, he was trying to take both realms. He was trying to take the kingdoms of the north that was north of Israel and the kingdoms that was south of Israel plus Israel, right? So he wanted it all, right? But of course, Egypt had a league with the Romans, brothers and sisters, and the Romans, they pretty much told him, hey, either stop what you're doing or it's wartime with us, right? Keep going.
At the end of it all, Antiochus Epiphanes and the kingdom were under the dominion of Rome.
Right, because remember it said that Rome was at this time at its iron stage, brothers and sisters. Wasn't nobody dealing with Rome at this point, right? If you went up against Rome, even Hannibal was the best person that tried to go against Rome, and then he hit them pretty hard, but then he ended up falling. Nobody was able to deal with Rome until Rome fell, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
In a famous battle, the Roman navy defeated the navy of Antiochus Epiphanes. After the battle, a Roman general drew a circle around Antiochus in the dirt and demanded to know if he would surrender and pay tribute to Rome.
So when we get down to verse 31, it says the ships of Shittim shall come against him. That is Rome, brothers and sisters. As we're seeing, the Roman navy came against Antiochus Epiphanes. And like I said, they pretty much told him to stop or we gonna continue on with this war, right? Keep going.
And demanded to know before he stepped out of the circle. From that point on, there was no doubt. Antiochus Epiphanes took his orders from Rome and was under Roman dominion.
Right, so they made a circle and told him, if you pass this circle and do not give us an answer, You have proclaimed war. You don't even have to say you proclaim war. If you don't give us an answer right now, that is the answer, brothers and sisters. He yielded because once again, Rome is at their iron stage. Don't nobody want to deal with Rome. Not at this time, right? Keep going.
Those who eat a portion of his delicacies shall destroy him. This was fulfilled in the treachery against Antiochus IV by his own counselors.
Right. So now let's go read verse 28 through 35. As you see, we breaking this down bit by bit, showing you that we going to land right into the Maccabean revolt, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant. And he shall do exploits and return to his own land.
Yeah, that's because he got mad that he couldn't get both realms because the Romans came against him. So he just pissed off, and now he want to go and take his frustrations out on Israel. Wasn't no other reason. We ain't did nothing to him, brothers and sisters, nothing. Wasn't no other reason for him to be mad other than his pride, his ego was hurt, right? Because he knew he met his match. Wasn't no dealing with him, right? With Rome. So let's see the angel actually prophesy this. Go ahead.
At the time appointed he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. For the ships of Shittim shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do, and he shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant.
So he have intelligence. Now, this is going to bring in the priests like Jason, like Menelaus, brothers and sisters. We're not going to get into that per se right now. We're going to focus on Judas and his family and stuff like that. But when we do, we're going to end up doing a lecture. This is just a mini version. We're going to do a whole lecture breaking this whole thing down as far as the Greek captivity. But when you're dealing now, he shall have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. And it started with the priest, brothers and sisters, right? The high priest. As a matter of fact, if you go back to Ezekiel, the 43rd chapter, it says that the Levites, they were supposed to bring, I'm paraphrasing, but they were supposed to bring the children of Israel back to God, but then they preached to them to their idols, brothers and sisters. That is what happened with the Greek Empire. The Levite priests preached to the idols to the people of Israel. They didn't bring them back to the people of God. However, there was another set of priests that was trying to bring back. And more specifically, the sons of Zadok, brothers and sisters, right? So, let us continue. Go ahead.
And the arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate.
Right, so this is twofold. Remember, this happened during the time of Antiochus. This is also going to happen with the Pope in the future, brothers and sisters. We're not taking away anything. We're just adding the story to it, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall be corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits.
As we're going to see, those are the people that follow Jason and the wicked priests to the Hellenistic world. But then the people that are strong and shall do exploits is going to be the people that follow Judas Maccabees and his people, right? So we got two sets of people when it comes to the priests. The priests are the influential ones that will make you make a decision. Just like if you go back to when they created the golden calf, who was the one that influenced them to do it? It was Aaron, brothers and sisters. The priest is always there. He's going to direct you to go a certain way, right? Just like any of your leaders or whatever the case may be. But that's why you got to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. You can't follow no leader into destruction, brothers and sisters, right? Let's keep going.
And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil, many days. Now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end.
Even to the time of the end. So we're going to add that this is going all the way to the time of the end. That is why it's duality in this prophecy, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
Because it is yet for a time appointed.
All right, so let's go see this. Let's go break this down, right? 3.
The vile person turns on the Holy Land with violence. While returning to his land with great riches, his heart shall be moved against the Holy Covenant. So he shall do damage and return to his own land. At the appointed time he shall return and go toward the south. But it shall not be like the former or the latter. For ships from Cyprus,
That's supposed to be Shittim. So ships from Shittim, not Cyprus,
from Shittim, shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and rage against the Holy Covenant and do damage.
So the ships of Shittim, or the ships of Rome, as we see, the Roman Navy ships came against him and they gave him an ultimatum, right? Keep going.
So he shall return and show regard for those who forsake the Holy Covenant, and forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then they shall take away the daily sacrifices and place their abomination of desolation. Those who do wickedly against the covenant he shall corrupt with flattery. But the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits.
Right. So once again, once we're going to see what Judas and them had done, brothers and sisters, this is an example of what you're going to have to do. That is why this story is really relevant, because it happened back then as an example for us to see what we're going to do in the future, brothers and sisters, right? They are our example of what was going on. Because up until this point, nothing like this ever happened, brothers and sisters. And then in the future, nothing like the future is going to happen. So we got to be prepared, brothers and sisters. We really got to be prepared. Keep going.
And those are the people who understand shall instruct many. Yet for many days they shall fall by the sword and flame, by captivity and plundering. Now when they fall, they shall be aided with a little help, but many shall join with them by intrigue. And some of those of understanding shall fall to refine them, purify them, and make them white until the time of the end, because it is still for the appointed time.
All right, let's see what this is, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
His heart shall be moved against the Holy Covenant. When the vile person returned to his land, he would attack the land, people, and the temple of Israel. It will be a time of great courage and great treachery among the people of God. So he shall do damage and return to his own land. This was fulfilled when Antiochus Epiphanes returned from Egypt, bitter from defeat. He vented his anger against Jerusalem, which was already shaken because Antiochus sold the office of the high priest and persecuted the Jewish people to conform to Greek culture, forsaking the faith and traditions of their fathers.
So he sold the office of the high priest, brothers and sisters, like made it obsolete. They working for him now, right? So our Levite priest turned against us, brothers and sisters. That is what we got to understand. Just because he's in that position of authority don't mean he's always righteous, brothers and sisters. We got to understand that, right? Keep going.
While returning to his land with great riches, failing in his invasion of Egypt, Antiochus Epiphanes returned home with only great plunder to soothe his wounded pride. Ships from Shittim shall come against him. This was naval assistance from the Romans who helped the Egyptians turn back Antiochus Epiphanes.
Right, so the ships of Shittim shall come against him. This is the naval assistance from the Romans, brothers and sisters, right? Who helped the Egyptians turn back Antiochus Epiphanes, right? So he no longer is going to have the power of the two realms. They ruined his plan, right? Keep going.
They shall take away the daily sacrifices and place their abomination of desolation.
Right, so now, once again, we know that's going to happen in the future. We know that's talking about the future as well, but it's also talking about Antiochus, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
Antiochus Epiphanes set up an image of Zeus at the temple altar. He demanded sacrifice to this image and later desecrated the temple by sacrificing a pig on it.
Did y'all know that? Did you know that our temple turned into the temple of Zeus? Did you know, as we're finna see, that they were sacrificing to Hercules in the temple of God? See, we got to understand this is missing history, brothers and sisters, that we need to see as far as what they did to our temple. This is why we have the Feast of Dedication, because it is a reminder that we went back into there. We went back, got the temple back, cleansed it, and now we're finna have a civil feast year by year as a remembrance of that. It's not, and then I also want to point this out because I didn't say this in the beginning. This is not the Hanukkah celebration. As we're going to see, the stuff that they doing with the Hanukkah celebration, it's not in the book. It's not in the prophecy of Daniel. It's not in the Maccabees books. The 9-candle menorah that you see, That's Esau's heathen ways over it, brothers and sisters.
Esau all day.
All day. That has nothing to do with the Feast of Dedication. The lighting up the candles for 8 days, that has nothing to do with the Feast of Dedication. They had a story talking about they ran out of, they only had enough light for one candle. So they lit the candle and it stayed lit for 8 days. That is a made up story, brothers and sisters. That is not the real story. So we have to really, if we're gonna claim something, we gotta read the text. Mm-hmm. We can't go out there saying stuff and not read the text, right? Keep going.
It was in truth an abomination, which brought a desolate condition to the temple. Mm-hmm. For now no one will come to worship at all.
Keep going.
Those who do wickedly against the covenant, he shall corrupt with flattery. Mm-hmm. But the people who know their God shall be strong. Mm-hmm. When Antiochus Epiphanes turned on Jerusalem, the Jewish people were divided. Some forsook their covenant with God and embraced Greek culture. Those who knew their God made a stand for righteousness in the face of incredible persecution.
Talking about Judas and everything, and as far as that is concerned, brothers and sisters. So we ain't finna knock what they did, especially since Daniel prophesied what they were going to do, brothers and sisters, right? Continue. Let's continue.
For many days they shall fall by sword and flame, by captivity and plundering. In his attack on Jerusalem, Antiochus IV is said to have killed 80,000 Jews, taken 40,000 more as prisoners, and sold another 40,000 as slaves. He also plundered the temple, robbing it of approximately $1 billion by modern calculations.
$1 billion by modern calculations. Because you know, a temple, it had all type of stuff on it, brothers and sisters, right?
Gold everywhere.
So gold everywhere and things of that nature, brothers and sisters. So it was about that price, right? Keep going.
Until the time of the end, because it is still for the appointed time, this terror will only last for as long as God had appointed it. And God had a purpose even for such persecution and blasphemy.
And that's going to last all the way into the future, into the Abomination of Desolation set when it comes to the Pope and everything, until the second coming, brothers and sisters. That is until the time of the end. But best believe this was talking about the Maccabean revolt, right? So, let's go prove that. Let's go prove that. Where's the Maccabees? So now, if you have an Apocrypha, you can take it out. But we're only dealing with the book of Maccabees, right? Like I said, brothers and sisters, I am not one that's going to take all the time to try to promote the Apocrypha, brothers and sisters. That's not what I'm here for, right? Because there's nothing in the Apocrypha that you can't get that's not in the 66 books. Except one thing, brothers and sisters, and that is the history of the Maccabees. Once again, the history of the Maccabees, right? I'm not talking about anything. Everything that's divinely inspired is in the 66 books. But historically, we need the Maccabees to confirm the prophecy of Daniel, brothers and sisters, right? So let's do that. Now we're going to First Maccabees. If you have an Apocrypha, you can take it out. First Maccabees 1. First Maccabees 1, and we're going to start at verse 1. First Maccabees 1, and we're going to start at verse 1. And whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece.
Right, so this is Darius the second, I believe, or the third, whatever, the last king of Persia, I know, whichever Darius that was, right? And so he had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. We're already seeing that this is fulfilling Daniel, the 11th chapter. Just in the first verse, brothers and sisters, right? Let's keep going to see if this verifies everything else. Go ahead.
And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. And went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations. And so much that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him.
So if we go back to Daniel 11 verse 3, it says, and a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. What was his will? To control and to dominate the kings of the earth and make them be tributaries unto him. Right? Keep going.
Yeah, 4.
Verse 5.
And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable, and he had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive.
Right, so that's his generals, and he did it while he was alive, but he was still sick. He fell sick, brothers and sisters, but he did it. They started parting the kingdom while he was alive, right? Keep going.
So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
And evils were multiplied on the earth. Why? Because the Hellenization of the earth is starting with these kings, brothers and sisters. But really, it was forced and turned up with Antiochus Epiphanes. So let's see this being discussed. Go ahead, verse 10.
And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes.
All right, here we go. There go Antiochus, right? Keep going.
Son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome.
Right, so there's the son of Antiochus the king, or Antiochus the great, or Antiochus the third, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Right, he said, and then this is backing up Daniel 11 and 30. It says, he shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. That is these wicked Israelites that said, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. That's the same thing they said when they was worshiping the Queen of Heaven in Egypt, brothers and sisters. Same language, right? Keep going.
So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Right, so these people didn't even, because he didn't even get to the point of forcing them. He still got them by his flatteries, brothers and sisters. So there's some of us that would just went. We was ready to give up the law, statutes, and commandments, right? But others he had to force, right? Keep going.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen.
And as we're seeing, that's them gymnasiums that they built in Israel, brothers and sisters, right? The same gymnasiums, same thing we see with the basketball, with the football. I'm not saying that's pagan or there's nothing wrong with that, but that is where it came from, brothers and sisters. The gymnasiums in the Greek world, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
How did they make themselves uncircumcised? Nasty. They sewed their foreskin back onto. That's terrible. They wanted to be so far with the Greek traditions, brothers and sisters, that they sewed their foreskin back onto themselves, right? Just so they won't look like Israelites, just so they will blend in with the Greeks. And why were they even doing that? If you look at the root word for gymnasium, which is gymnos, it means naked, brothers and sisters. So they were competing in these games naked. So they had to sew the foreskin back on so they wouldn't see that they were circumcised, because they'll kill them if they do, right? Keep going.
Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt. That he might have dominion over 2 realms.
So once again, that's of two realms. He wanted to be the king of the north and the king of the south, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death.
So if we go back, let's see. And he shall stir, here you go, verse 25, Daniel 11 and 25. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south, which is Ptolemy, with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But once he realized it wasn't going well for him, he ended up getting scared, which is what it says over here, right? But it says, and the king of the south shall be stirred up in a battle and very great and mighty army, but he shall not stand. Why? Because he got scared. For they shall forecast devices against him. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. Read verse 18 again.
And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt, but Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death.
And many were wounded to death, or they were slain, brothers and sisters. You see how this is correlating together? It's telling the story. This is the history showing the prophecy of Daniel, right? Let's keep going.
Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude.
Once again, you got to understand the calendar systems, because you will go to secular history and it will be a whole nother number than this. But you got to understand, brothers and sisters, when you're doing with Greek calendars, Babylonian calendars, they might have different numbers of their years, right? So we want to keep that in mind when you want to go and do some research. Go ahead.
And entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof and the table of the showbread and the pouring vessels and the vials and the censers of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off.
Right. So he took everything out the temple, brothers and sisters, right? This is why we're going to see they have to end up making new stuff, because he profaned and he profaned the stuff that was in there already, right? Keep going. He
took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly.
Keep going.
Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were.
Right.
So that the princes and elders mourned, and the virgins and young men were made feeble. And the beauty of women was changed.
And the beauty of women was changed. Why is that? Because instead of our women now wanting to be modest, wanting to be part of their Hebraic customs, now they want to be like the Greeks. Now they want to dress like the Greeks. Right? That's why the beauty of women has changed. If you notice, even today, the beauty of women has changed now. From even back in our elders' lives, brothers and sisters, back in the 60s and 50s, the beauty of women had changed, right? Keep going.
So that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in the land also was moved.
Heaviness.
Oh, heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion.
Oh, it's confusion in the house of Jacob now. Just like now, it's confusion in the house of Jacob. It was confusion then, and it's confusion now, right? Those confusion of faces, right? Keep going.
And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them.
Oh, didn't it say that they was going to speak flatteries? So Antiochus, by him being the king, even if he sends somebody else to represent him, brothers and sisters, that's still him doing that, right? We got to understand that. Keep going.
And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit.
But all was deceit, right? Because he was making phony friendships with everybody, right? Keep going.
For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle.
But the women and children he took captive and possessed the cattle. Hold on, let me see something. Where were we at? Oh, here we go. Verse 33, Daniel 11 and 33, it says, they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. Read verse 31 and 32 again.
And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he had set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle.
All these prophecies are being fulfilled, brothers and sisters, just like we show with the history. All of this stuff is being fulfilled, right? Keep going.
Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
Right, so we had our sellouts, brothers and sisters. We always got sellouts among Israel, and that's what you're gonna have to watch out for as we go to the go in the future, brothers and sisters. You gotta watch out for them sellouts. Not everybody is your friend, and people will turn you in, brothers and sisters, when the time comes. Right, keep going.
They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it is a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, and so much that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her.
Right, so it's so bad we got chased out of our own land. Right, now this is why, if you understand the importance of what Judas and them did, we were running out of our own land, brothers and sisters, because it got polluted so bad. No, the priests, which Judas and them, they were priests. They're gonna go and get that thing back. These cats was goons. Period. They was goons, brothers and sisters, right? Straight G's, and they were G's for the Lord, though.
Sir.
They were soldiers for the Lord, though. That's the difference. Keep going.
Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning. Her Sabbaths into reproach. Her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning.
Keep going.
Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to the whole kingdom that all should be one people.
Right, so he wrote to the whole kingdom that all should be one people, right? As he's doing this is something that his fathers and them never did, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
And everyone should leave his laws, and so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
So all the nations came up under the Hellenistic world and the Hellenistic culture, right? Keep going.
Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath.
Right, so we're also going to show, because there's a lot of people that have a issue of what it means to follow the law of the land, right? That doesn't go contrary to the laws of God, right? So it's just like if you're dealing with a strange woman or a strange wife because she's in another religion and she's going to turn your heart from your God and make you start worshiping her gods. Same thing with the laws of the land. And we're going to see that, right? Keep going.
For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
That they should follow the strange laws of the land. And that is the laws that's pertaining to that religion, brothers and sisters, right? If it don't pertain to the religion, that is the laws you're supposed to keep. And if those laws don't go contrary to the religion of the God of Israel, those are the laws that you're supposed to keep in your enemy's land, right? Keep going.
And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
All right, so you got the sacrificial law. We got our ceremonial laws, which are our holy days and feast days. Keep going.
And pollute the sanctuary and holy people.
We got the moral or our royal law, because when you're dealing with polluting the holy people, you're polluting their morality, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
So you got the dietary law there, brothers and sisters, right? And set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, right? Dealing more with the moral law, right? Keep going.
That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
Right, so now you got the circumcision law, right? All the laws that we need for salvation. Plus the cleanliness laws, which would be in the category of circumcision, right? Circumcising of the flesh and the heart, which is cleaning the flesh and the heart, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
To the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
To the end that might forget the law and change all the ordinances. Started with the Greeks, brothers and sisters, right? And then it filtered all the way down until now, right? Keep going.
And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto him, to wit, every one that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor.
Right, so he drove the Israelites into secret places or into the wilderness, right? So these Israelites, even though somebody is coming to destroy you, to kill you, to make you give up your laws, what we going to do? We're going to flee into the wilderness and make sure we keep our laws, brothers and sisters. These people were not giving up their laws, even when death was upon them. That's the attitude that we need to have, brothers and sisters, right? And I hope and pray that when that time comes, I will be strong enough, because I'm not foolish enough to sit here and be like, yeah, I got it right now. No, Lord, give me the strength if that time comes and I have to be in that situation. That's what you want to pray for, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Then many other people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor. Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side.
Oh, isn't that what Daniel said, brothers and sisters? Let's go see that, right? Verse 31, Daniel 11:31, an arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, which we read. They took away the daily sacrifice, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. Read verse 54 again, brothers.
Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side.
So when did verse 31 in Daniel 11 happen? On the 15th day of the month of Caslu, brothers and sisters, which is the 9th month. 15th day of the 9th month of the 145th year of the Greeks. That's when it happened, brothers and sisters. That's when that one happened, right? So the next one is I don't know the date on the next one, but the next one's going to happen sometime in the future, right? Keep going.
And burnt incense and at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with the book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death.
Right. So how many people ready for that? How many people ready that if they catch you with this, they're going to kill you? How many of us are really ready for that, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month to
go ahead.
Yeah, it was it missed out too
many.
As many as were found in the cities.
Right. Oh, and so they were looking out for Israelites every month. Why you think they was doing that? Because these Israelites were still blowing the trumpet on the new moon every month, brothers and sisters. We just had a new moon yesterday. Every month for the new moon, they were still blowing the trumpet. They didn't care. They didn't care if they was going to get found out or nothing like that. They still going to keep God's law, because they knew once we blow this trumpet, they're going to come. They're going to know where our position is. They're going to come and they're going to kill us, right? Keep going.
Now, the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the altar, the idol altar, which is upon the altar of God.
Right. So on the 5th and 20th day, or the 25th day of the month Caslu, which is the first day of the Feast of Dedication, what did they do again, brothers?
They did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God.
Right, so this ain't got nothing to do, once again, this ain't got nothing to do with lights and hanging up lights, this, that, and third. It is a reminder that not only did they profane the altar in the sanctuary on the 25th day of the 9th month, they also got it back on the 25th day of the 9th month. And we celebrated for 8 days as they did in the Feast of Tabernacle, brothers and sisters. The Feast of Dedication, the 8 days, is based on the Feast of Tabernacle, and we're going to see that today, right? Keep going.
At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised.
How many sisters is ready for that? You go and get your son, your baby boy circumcised. They find out they killed you and the boy. Let's see how they killed the children, right? Keep going.
And they hanged the infants about their necks.
They hanged infants about their necks. Is y'all ready for this? You should know about this because it's gonna happen again. You get caught in that tribulation, it's gonna happen to you. You better believe it. Keep going.
And rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them.
Mm-hmm.
Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
Right. So now we're not gonna even eat no unclean thing, brothers and sisters. We not gonna eat nothing unclean. We would rather die than eat unclean foods, right? So this goes to show you the law was never done away with. These people died keeping the law, but now they're going to say the law was done away with, right? Keep going.
Wherefore the rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant, so then they died. And there was very great wrath upon Israel.
And there was very great wrath upon Israel because they going around either you giving up the laws or you died, right? And a lot of people did not give up the laws, brothers and sisters. So let's go bring in Judas in them now. Keep going.
Chapter 2, First Maccabees chapter 2.
Right. First, so we're at First Maccabees, the second chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. First Maccabees 2 and verse 1. Go ahead.
In those days arose Matthias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib.
Jorib, the priest of the sons of Jorib. If you go back to 1 Chronicles 24, brothers and sisters, Jehoiarib is one of the 24 elders. So as far as lineage, and we'll get more detailed with the lecture. As far as lineage, these were the sons of Eleazar, brothers and sisters, through the sons of Zadok, right? Through the sons of Jehoiarib. So these were priests. These were the Levite priests, brothers and sisters, that wasn't going. And we started with Matthias, and we're going to bring on his sons, right? Keep going.
In those, in those days arose Matthias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons. Johanan called Caddis, Simon called Thasi, Judas, who was called Maccabees, Eleazar called Avaron, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphas.
So, right, these are these brothers, the 5 brothers that's going to end up winning back the temple from the Greeks, right? Keep going.
And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Her temple was become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of an enemy. What nation have not had a part in the kingdom and gotten of her spoils? All her ornaments are taken away, and of a free woman she is become a bond slave.
Talking about Israel, of a free woman, she's now become a bond slave, right? You didn't force the people out. They didn't took over. They made the woman a bond slave, right? But of course, these priests ain't finna just let this happen, right? Keep going.
And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it.
So the Gentiles have profaned it. Another thing that I know my brothers, they probably not gonna like this, but my more One West brothers, one thing I don't understand is if we know that this is the Greeks and it says that the Gentiles profaned it, how can the Greeks be Edomites? They gotta be Gentiles, right? So you can't say that you can't sit here and say that the Gentiles in the New Testament is lost Israelites, say that the Greeks is Edomites, but because the lost Israelites got Hellenized, they're Gentiles. That don't make sense. That makes no sense. I want to make that a side note, right? Keep going. Verse,
To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Then Matthias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Matthias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Matthias on this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with his sons and brethren.
Keep going.
Now therefore come thou first to fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
Right, so he tried to bribe him, like, you an honorable man. You shouldn't have to die and do this thing. Come into the, you could come into the king's palace. They're going to set you up real good. Basically turn him into a house slave, right? Right, we gonna bring you into the house. You're gonna be good, this, that, and third. But don't go out like the rest of the people, right? But let's see what Matthias' reply was back to him, right? Keep going.
Then Matthias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him.
Though all the nations under the king's dominion obey him, right? Keep going.
And fall away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk into the covenant of our fathers. Right? Skip all this Hellenization. We gonna keep the laws of the God of our fathers, brothers and sisters. And that's what we plan to do, to keep the laws of our fathers of the God of Israel. Right? Keep going.
God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion either on the right hand or the left.
All right, so now let's go to 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter. 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1.
Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and to live after the laws of God.
Right, so we're seeing the same story, but just in a different viewpoint, right? Keep going.
And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius.
To call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, which is Zeus, brothers and sisters, right? And they ended up doing that and changing it into that, right? Keep going.
And that in Gerizim, the Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that brought in things that were not lawful.
So it was temple prostitution. They turned it into temple prostitution in the temple of God. Sacrificing to Zeus. And as we're going to see, sacrificing unto Hercules, brothers and sisters. Sleeping with the temple prostitutes in the God of Israel's sanctuary. That is why we had to go back and cleanse it. And then we just ended up creating a feast for it, brothers and sisters. That's all. We make this big thing. Oh, it's not a salvation thing. This, that, and third. We're not finna discredit what they did. Because so many of us would not have done what they did. Right? Keep going.
The altar was also filled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient fast, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
That's supposed to be feast. So, or ancient feasts. Feasts, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going. Or not, oh my bad. Or not. So you couldn't keep the Sabbath, the feast, or you couldn't say you was an Israelite at all. This is what they had to stop, right? Giving up our identity. They saved us from giving up our salvation, brothers and sisters. That is what they did. Now, you may not have to keep the Feast of Dedication to get salvation, but the Feast of Dedication symbolizes priests going into the temple fighting for our salvation. That is what you have to understand, right? Keep going.
And in the day of the king's birth every month, they were brought by bitter constraint to eat the sacrifices. And when the fast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy.
Right. This is Dionysus, if I'm pronouncing it right. But he's one of the 12 Olympians, brothers and sisters, right? Zeus's son, right? He is a harvest God. Just like Thanksgiving is a harvest festival, they had that in the temple of God. So we got to look at that. We will sit here and keep Thanksgiving and not have a problem keeping Thanksgiving, but we will mock people that keep the Feast of Dedication based off what it symbolizes. And it symbolizes this. This is what it symbolizes. You will keep Thanksgiving, but not the Feast of Dedication. Right? Keep going.
Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen their present misery. For there were 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, whom when they had openly led round about the city, the babes hanging at their breast, they cast them down headlong from the wall.
All right, so they kept slaying the women that circumcised their child. They basically kept killing the people that kept the law, brothers and sisters, right? So through everything that we're going through everything that these curses and everything that we have to go through, brothers and sisters, there is a message here that God wanted us to know, right? And we're going to see that message. Go ahead.
And others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Sabbath day secretly, being discovered by Philip, were all burnt together because they made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day.
All right, let's see this message that's in this, right? Keep going.
Now I beseech those that read this book. Pay attention, brothers and sisters. Keep going. That they be not discouraged for these calamities, but that they judge those punishments not to be for destruction, but for a chastening of our nation.
Why? Because he treats us like sons, so he chastens us, brothers and sisters. So everything that we're going through, it says that don't look at that as if it's going to be destruction that comes upon you, but for the chastening of our nation, to get us back right, to purify us, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
For it is a token of his great goodness when wicked doers are not suffered any long time, but forthwith punished. For not as with other nations whom the Lord patiently forbeareth to punish, till they be come to the fullness of their sins, so dealeth he with us. Lest that being come to the height of sin, afterwards he should take vengeance of us. And therefore he never withdraweth his mercy from us, and though he punish with adversity, yet doth he never forsake his people. But let this that we had spoken be for a warning unto us, and now will we come to declaring of the matter in a few words.
Remember, brothers and sisters, because of our disobedience, this is why this stuff happened. It was as simple as there was nothing that made Antiochus come and do this to us but his pride of not getting another nation. It didn't even have nothing to do with us, right? But that was God showing us that I could take the smallest thing and send somebody to show you my wrath upon you, to chasten you and to purify you, right? Just out of the blue. So you got to understand, when dealing with God, that's how powerful he is. We can't stand up against that, brothers and sisters. So the best thing to do is to keep the commandments of God and the faith in Jesus, right? Keep going. Oh, no. So now we're going to go to 2 Maccabees 4. 2 Maccabees 4. 2 Maccabees 4, and we're going to start at verse 13. We're almost done, brothers and sisters. We have 4 scriptures left. Yeah. Go ahead.
Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle, but they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets.
Right, and so the trumpets, if you go back to Numbers, the 10th chapter, one of the reasons to blow the trumpet, brothers and sisters, is when war is coming, right? So they blew the trumpet because they were in the middle of the war, right? Keep going.
So they joined the battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain.
Right.
Howbeit all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them to Gezerah, and unto the plains of Idumea, and Azotus, and Jamnia, so that there were slain of them upon the 3,000 men.
Right, so they killing, notice that 3,000 men, just like 3,000 men that got slain back in Moses' time for worshiping that calf, right? I'm just noticing these similarities. But this is what they did. So they was going around slaying everybody that was trying to force this thing on them, brothers and sisters, including the Israelites that end up turning to the Hellenistic culture and religion, right? Keep going.
This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them, and said to the people, "Be not greedy of the spoil, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. And Gorgias and his host are here by us in the mountain, but stand ye now against our enemies and overcome them, and after this ye boldly take the spoils." As Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain, who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done.
Keep going.
When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight.
All right, so we reading that. Hold on. Listen to something. All right. Bear with me, brothers and sisters. I think I got the. We got. Oh man. Oh, that's the wrong one. We don't have to go to the phone.
Okay.
Hold on, brothers and sisters. I got the wrong copy. So we're going to, that was first Maccabees 4. We're going back to that. But let's go to second Maccabees. It's supposed to be second Maccabees 4. Sorry about that. Let's pull it up. But it's crazy. I just read that because we needed that anyway. So let's see. Second Maccabees 4. Second Maccabees 4 and 13. You can read that. Second Maccabees 4 and verse 13.
Now such was the height of the Greek fashions and increase of heathenish manners through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest, that the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise. After the game of discus called them forth, not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Greeks best of all.
Right. They like the glory of the Greeks rather than glory of the fathers, which was the God of Israel. And they in there playing discus, you know, the game that they throw, the frisbee that they throw and stuff like that. So they playing this game and they doing it naked with phony foreskins and turtlenecks on them and stuff. And they doing this, brothers and sisters. And it's like, it hasn't clicked to them like, man, God gonna get me for this. It's like it didn't click to none of them. They just forsook God. They didn't want to have nothing to do with God, right? Keep going.
For they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose custom they follow so earnestly, and unto whom they desire to be like in all things. For it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God, but the time following shall declare these things.
It's not a light thing. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Now, when the game that was used every 5th year was kept at Tyre, the king being present, this ungracious Jason sent special messages from Jerusalem.
So this ungracious Jason, this is one of the high priests, brothers and sisters, that turned from the laws of God and ended up assisting Antiochus in bringing the Hellenistic culture onto Israel, right? Keep going.
Who were Antiochians to carry 300 drachms of silver to the sacrifice of Hercules.
Ooh, what? To the sacrifice of Hercules, brothers and sisters. While they were in the temple, they did this, right? Keep going.
Which even the bearers thereof thought fit not to bestow upon the sacrifice because it was not convenient.
Or in other words, some of the people, they knew this was so bogus, like, man, we not even going to do this. This is going too far, right? You sacrificing unto Zeus. You sacrificing unto Hercules in the temple and things of that nature, right? Keep going.
But to be reserved for other charges.
All right, so now we're almost done. Let's go to 2 Maccabees 10, and then we got one more place after this. All right, so you can go back to that.
I'll go this one.
Right, so we're seeing that they done gave up the laws of God for the Greek fashions. They love playing discus and things like that, brothers and sisters, naked, putting on phony turtlenecks on their stuff. But we are going to now see, what this feast was based off of, brothers and sisters. So all of this that they were doing, this is what the feast was based off of, right? 2 Maccabees 10 and verse 1. Yeah, that's 10. Okay.
Now, Maccabees and his company, the Lord guiding them, recovered the temple and the city, but the altars which the heathen had built in the open street, and also the chapels they pulled down. And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar, and striking stones, they took fire out of them, and offered a sacrifice after 2 years, and set forth incense and lights and showbread.
Right, so this is, the lights, brothers and sisters, is just the menorah, the regular menorah, brothers and sisters. Not the stuff that they doing on this Hanukkah celebration. Just the menorah, right? Keep going.
When that was done, they fell flat down and besought the Lord that they might come no more into such troubles. But if they sinned any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy, and that they might not be delivered unto the blasphemous and barbarous nations.
So they know that, Lord, hey, if you see us falling off like this, hey, chasing us, right? Get us together, right? Keep going.
Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple.
Oh, so the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, which was the 25th day of the 9th month, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
On the very same day, it was cleansed again. And the 25th day of the same month, which is Caslu. And they kept the 8 days with gladness.
Why?
As in the feast of the tabernacle,
right?
Remembering that not long afore, they had held the feast of tabernacles when, as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts. Right.
So that's what they did. Not long before they did this, they held the feast of tabernacle, right? Because the feast of tabernacle starts on the 14th day of the 15th day of the 7th month. So this is on the 25th day of the 9th month. They kept the Feast of Tabernacles in the mountains and dens like beasts. So we just we kept the Feast of Tabernacle. We just gonna make this based off the Feast of Tabernacle. We're gonna keep it for 8 days. That is what it is, brothers and sisters. Not, like I said, not this Hanukkah celebration,
8 candlesticks.
Right? 8 candlesticks and all that. That is not the Feast of Dedication, brothers and sisters, right? Keep going.
Therefore they bare branches and fair boughs and palms also, and sang psalms unto him that had given them good success in cleansing his place. They ordained also by a common statute and decree that every year those days should be kept of the whole nation of the Jews.
I want y'all to pay attention to that. Every year. Now I challenge anybody to show me in the time of Ezra, in the time of Solomon, even in the time of Moses, when did they keep it year to year as a decree? When did they keep it year to year? That brings me up to our last point. Let's go to our last scripture. Let's go to John, the 10th chapter. John, the 10th chapter. John, the 10th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 19. John, the 10th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 19. John 10 and 19, whatever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
There was a division, therefore, again among the Jews for these sayings. And many of them said, he hath a devil and is mad. Why hear ye him?
Right, so they having this conversation with him, this regular conversation we all know about, right? That, hey, are you the Christ? No, this person ain't the Christ. He's a devil because he's preaching blasphemy, talking about he's God or he's the Son of God, right? Keep going.
And many of them said, he have a devil and is mad. Why hear ye him? And others said, these are not the words of him that hath a devil. Can the devil open the eyes of the blind?
So, and some of them, they looked at him and they like, he ain't no devil. Can the devil open the eyes of the blind, right? Verse 22. Keep going.
And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter.
Oh, so the one they kept year by year, right? Right? Because they weren't keeping that year by year before that. So which one was this? Was this the one in Ezra's time? Was this the one in Solomon's time? No, brothers and sisters, it was the one in the Greek time, 100-something years before it. Not that long before it. They were keeping it as a decree every year. So this is the one that it was talking about, brothers and sisters. Keep going.
And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, How long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly. Jesus answered them, I told you, and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But ye believe not, because ye are not of my sheep, as I said unto you.
He had this conversation during the Feast of Dedication, brothers and sisters. The one that the Maccabees set up, right? So I want to give all honor and praise to the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Holy One of Israel, who is Jesus. I am Cassius Israel, a.k.a. Kazak Ben Yehuda. This is my reader, Isaac Judah Israel. We want to thank y'all for tuning in. I hope y'all got some edification out of that. Once again, I'm putting that challenge out there. Which one is this? Which one is this? You got to show year to year. Right? It's got to make sense, y'all. We can't be biased because it's in the Apocrypha. This was legit history, and it was history that I read in other sources, right? Breaking down Daniel 11, showing this history as well, brothers and sisters, right? So we have to really gain understanding, brothers and sisters. We have to really be passionate about true scholarship, and that's what we have to do. This is the last night of the Feast of Feast of Dedication. If you are out here celebrating it, happy Feast of Dedication, my brothers and sisters, and shalom.